that's been peeled away is going to be your fibrous capsule. You know what? I'm going to follow the order of the figure so that you have it, that you can follow along with the figure. So the renal cortex is this region here. The renal medulla is this region here. The major calyx, okay? So a major calyx would be right here, for example, okay? So that would be a major calyx. The papilla of the pyramid, that's the papilla of the pyramid. The renal pelvis is this area right here. A minor calyx is where each papilla drains into, so that's a minor calyx. The ureter is this part here. Renal pyramid in the renal medulla, so all of this is the pyramid, and that's within the renal medulla. The renal column then is between the pyramids, and the fibrous capsule is what's on the outside, okay? So that's going to be then this gross anatomy that you have to identify there. The next thing that you have to do is you have to look at the large blood vessels that supply the kidney tissue. So the large blood vessels, and that one I'm not going to follow the figure, I'm going to follow the flow of the blood, okay? So you're going to have your renal artery that comes in, and it came off of the abdominal aorta. So your renal artery, your segmental artery. The segmental artery then runs up the column, and it's the interlobar artery. Arcuate artery, cortico-radiate artery. The cortico-radiate artery, which is this one, okay, right, then branches into, and I'm going to go to this one now, the afferent arteriole, the glomerulus, the efferent arteriole. Then it comes back, and it either capillarizes, it looks better on this one. So I have an afferent arteriole coming in, the glomerulus, and then it comes out with the efferent, and it can either form this capillary bed, which are the peritubular capillaries, or this capillary bed that is going to be the vasa recta. From the vasa recta, then it goes into the cortico-radiate vein, or from the peritubular capillaries, the cortico-radiate vein, the arcuate vein. So here we have the cortico-radiate vein, the arcuate vein, less zoomed in. Then we're going to have the interlobar veins that directly feed into the renal vein, okay? So that's the flow of blood in the kidney. When we have the model then, okay, so this type of nephron is going to be a juxtamedullary because the nephron loop is going to be in the medulla. This is a cortical nephron. So what are the parts of the nephron? The nephron is going to be made of the renal corpuscle that has that red, which is the glomerulus, and the white, which is the outer layer of Bowman's capsule. You've got the proximal convoluted tubule, the loop of Henle, the distal convoluted tubule. That's then going to feed, that distal convoluted tubule feeds into your collecting ducts, okay? That's everybody, we've said everything here, okay? The only thing that we're missing then is if we're looking at the individual renal corpuscle, which was the first part of your nephron, which is the functional unit. That is going to be made up of the glomerulus, okay? The glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule or the renal capsule, glomerular capsule. All three of those are synonyms. The Bowman's capsule has two parts to it. It's got the outer layer, which is this simple squamous out here. That's called the parietal layer of Bowman's capsule. And then these cells that are sitting directly on top of the glomerulus, the cell types, they're podocytes, and they are forming the visceral layer of Bowman's capsule. Between the visceral layer of Bowman's capsule and the parietal layer of Bowman's capsule, you have this space, which is the capsular space. So that's where you can see the dots that are here. Those are the fenestrations of the glomerulus. So that's the first layer of filtration. And then you're going to have a basement membrane. That's the second layer of filtration. And then these slits between the podocytes, which is the third layer of filtration. So now you filter that fluid and it collects here into the capsular space, and then it drains into the proximal convoluted tubule. The only other structures that you need to know is the JG apparatus, the juxtaglomerular apparatus. The juxtaglomerular apparatus is the one that's going to regulate, auto-regulate the amount of fluid that's being filtered. So if we look at a nephron, okay, its distal convoluted tubule is going to come into contact with its afferent arteriole, and they're going to interplay with each other to regulate the volume of fluid that's being filtered, okay? So the way that's done is with the JG apparatus. The JG apparatus has 3 types of cells, but on the model and on the slides you only see 2. You see the macula densa here. Those are going to be those simple columnar and lots of nuclei that are lining the distal convoluted tubule that are going to detect salt concentrations here in the tubule, all right? And now that's going to communicate, and what I don't have are, and what I don't see on the slide, are the cells that are in here. Those are mesangial cells. Those mesangial cells have gap junctions and are going to serve to communicate the macula densa to the smooth muscle that's lining this afferent arteriole, and those are called granular cells, because those granular cells are going to have renin inside of it. So now it's not only going to auto-regulate how much gets filtered, but it's also going to feed back and change or modify the systemic blood pressure. That's it.